ProAg Manager needs a minimum amount of data to work with: an operator, a farm, a field, and a crop. Connecting all those with a specific year is needed as well. When it is run for the very first time, it presents a fictional farming operation with all that data already set up. It's there as an example for your future reference. But more important is setting up your own farming operation. So let's get started. We'll create the year first. From the toolbar at the top of the screen, select the Descriptions menu. From there, we'll go to the Operations section and select Years. If the desired year is not on the list, click on the Add New Record button, type in the desired year, then click OK. Now we will create the operator. From the toolbar at the top of the screen, select the Descriptions menu. From there, go to the Operations section, select Operator Info. Click on Add Operator. Enter a description for the operator. Select the year. Those two items are required. The other data is optional. Click OK, then close the Add or Edit Operators window. Now we will create some land cost recipients. Even if we are not tracking any financial data, we still need some basic info in this section. Select the Descriptions menu again. From there, go to the Operations section, select Land Cost Recipients. Click on Add Recipient. Enter a name for the recipient. Even if a farm is rented on shares, add an entity or owner for that farm. It will be used later in setup. If you own the land outright and farm it, enter yourself as a recipient. The name of the recipient is required. The rest of the data is optional. Click OK, then close the Add or Edit Land Cost Recipients window. Now we will create some farms and fields. Select the Descriptions menu again. From there, go to the Operations section and select Farm Info. Click on Add Farm. Enter a description for the farm. On the middle portion of the Farm Info window, enter a description for every field in the farm along with the area. Those two items are required. The other data is optional. Repeat the same procedure to add all farms and fields. Even if you want to add optional locations to the farm, we will leave it blank for now and come back to it later. Click OK and close the Add or Edit Farms window. Included in the system are several common crops: alfalfa hay, brome hay, corn, soybeans, and wheat. They are all set up with their respective dry percent, yield unit, and default harvest unit. If you need to add an additional crop, here is where you set up that information. Select the Descriptions menu. From there, go to the Operations section and select Crop Types. Let's look at one of the existing crops to get a feeling for how this works. Click on one of the crops, such as corn. Then click on Edit Crop. There is the description for the crop, and in the dry percent cell is the highest moisture the crop can be without being subject to a buyer's shrink or moisture discount. In the yield unit drop-down selector, bushel is selected for the yield to be measured by. Below that, bushel and pounds are listed as available units for how the crop is harvested, along with their corresponding factors to convert to the yield unit. The reason for having a choice between a yield unit and a harvest unit is that some may want to track their harvest by pounds and yet measure their yield by bushels. Or hay producers may want to track their harvest by round bales or square bales and yet measure their yield by tons. So under the Harvest Units column, select all the possible ways you want to track the harvest. Then enter the factor to convert to the yield units. If you only want to deal with bushels, no matter what, then select bushel for the yield unit and bushel for the harvest unit and type in the number 1 for the factor under the yield units column. But if you want to track a grain crop in both bushels and pounds and measure the yield in bushels, then you would select bushel in the harvest unit column and type 1 in the yield units column. Then select pounds in the harvest unit column and type 56 in the yield units column. If one year you tracked your harvest with just pounds, but later you wanted to change to bushels, then just uncheck the checkbox in the default column for pounds and put a check mark in the checkbox for bushels. This will speed data entry in the Harvest, Contracts, and Sales tabs. If you use multiple units during harvest, then leave them all checked, and the top one in the list will be the default in the Harvest, Contracts, and Sales tabs. But any others checked will be available to be selected. Any harvest units you have unchecked will not be available to select from in the Harvest, Contracts, and Sales tabs. Here's another detail for those who wish to use multiple harvest units. If you use one more than the other, but the wrong one keeps showing up as a Harvest or Sales tab default, you can reorder the list in the Crop Types window. FYI, the list is ordered ascending from how you number the order column. This allows you to easily reorder the list by changing the order number to get the one you want to be at the top of the list and show as the default in the Harvest, Contracts, and Sales tabs. If you look at the hay crops in the Crop Details window that come with the program, you can see more example of these features. And if you look at the Harvest and Sales tabs for the fictional farmer in the program, you can see how they are affected by the choices made in the Crop Details window. When you have finished with the crop details window, click OK, then close the Add or Edit Crop Types window. At this point, you have created the minimum amount of data the program needs, but we still have to tie a few things together. We will do that in the next video titled Operation Setup.